Howdy, folks. Happy Tuesday. We've got a few things to discuss today. We may have a short show today, but Ak may be joining us at some time. If not, we'll take some questions later on in the chat, but we will start, as usual, with Russ with the pre-show.
So, interesting development in Major League Baseball yesterday. The drug policy is no more. Players could do whatever they want right now. And here's my it expired, Mike.
You mean with the CBA?
It doesn't have to be with the CBA. Major League Baseball could still say, hey, listen, we need to keep the drug policy going because when the season starts, everybody should be starting on the same foot, but they're not. They just said, it expired. So here's the negative of that. The negative of that is that means more fringe players that feel like they have one more shot at the game will have no problem, especially if it's a shorter season, rolling the dice, using this offseason. Because look, if we're just finding out, that players knew way before this, and their agents told them and everything else, to take one more kick at the can and make it in Major League Baseball, and they won't care if they use steroids or not, because if they get caught, they'll be like, what do I care? This was my last shot anyhow. That's going to increase, and I wonder how many players went to the Dominican this year knowing that, hey, there's no off-season testing, and again, let's say the season's short. What are the odds they're going to be able to test every player this season if they have half a season? Not very good. So if you roll the dice, you probably could win this year if you decide you wanted to take steroids in Major League Baseball.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I am so sort of nonplussed about, honestly, Major League Baseball, Rob Manfred, the way the game has been run, it's like a whorehouse. It's really just like, it's been, I think people look at it like, okay, well, we're going to hold the line against, corruption and against cheating. And then on one hand, they say that, sure. And then on the other hand, they say, everything goes as is. And I'm like, honestly, I'm consistent when it comes to Major League Baseball. If you're a cheater, you don't belong in the Hall of Fame. And if you get caught, like, even though there was no CBA and all of a sudden they find andro in your blood or some masking agent coming back, maybe legally you can get away with it because there was no CBA and there was nothing to stop you, but you're still a cheater. So, anybody who gets caught after the fact, should be banned for 60 games or 180.
Yeah, but that's the thing. We don't even know what penalties there would be or anything. It's actually the people who are for steroids in the sport, they're probably rejoicing, except there is no sport. So it doesn't really matter.
Right. Just want to touch on this briefly because I didn't even know about it until about 5 minutes ago that and normally being the movie buff that I am, I'm always attuned to when the Oscar nominations are announced. No, I didn't know when they were coming out.
You were with the theater. There's a reason. You knew right away you were a part of it.
Whoa, time out. There's a reason why, because none of the goddamn movies are in the theaters. That's why.
Well, they are now, but you're right.
Well, but okay. I'm seeing and this is a movie that's, I believe, on Netflix. Like Javier Bardem and Nicole Kidman being nominated for being the Ricardos.
It's awful.
Right. I saw like 15 minutes of it, and
it's so bad.
I'm sorry. Nicole Kidman as a corpse would be better looking than Lucille Ball.
It was just bad.
Let's see here. Kristen Stewart for Spencer, like the 50th person to play Princess Diana, or Will Smith playing the extremely unlikable Richard Williams in King Richard.
I didn't see that. I do need to see that.
I want to I like Will Smith, but I'm old enough, and you're old enough to have seen Richard Williams and his act when Venus and Serena were young. I'm sorry, he was a jerk. A complete jerk.
But you're playing a part, and if you play a jerk, that's fine.
Well, I see. The thing is, I have to see the movie. If Will Smith plays him as a lovable guy, then it's a complete.
Okay, but like George C. Scott played Patton, and he was a jerk.
Well, because Patton was a jerk, but
Yeah.
that was accurate.
I mean, but right, it was all accurate. But here's what I think your issue is, and I don't disagree with you. I think your issue, and I don't look at this point in time, we can't separate a movie from Netflix and a movie from in the movie theater simply because of what you said. The lines have been blurred enough that maybe that's going to be the way it is forever. If that's the case, that's the case. But what I think your issue is that you don't want to see like biopics winning real Oscars, and I'm with you on that. Like the Lucy and Desi thing, there's been like 10 versions of it. Nobody could sit through all of it. Listen, we all watched I Love Lucy and the reruns, but I'm telling you, if you watch the minutia of this movie, you're like bored in 10 minutes. There's nothing to it, and the male lead is nowhere nearly as talented as Desi Arnaz was.
Yeah.
Not even close.
I mean, it's funny. A husband and wife in real life were nominated for Best Actor, Best Actress, and Javier Bardem and Penelope Cruz. Yep. Penelope Cruz for a movie I haven't heard of. And okay,
not Vanilla Sky.
No, not Vanilla Sky. Oh my God, that's so bad. But I don't know. Do you deserve an Oscar for making a beautiful woman look disgustingly ugly?
Yes, that's an Oscar-worthy performance every time. You know the rules, Mike, and that's one of them.
Well, I was going to say, you said biopics, and Jamie Foxx won for Ray, but Jessica Chastain, who is gorgeous, who's a very talented actress, she was nominated for Best Actress for portraying Tammy Faye Baker. It's like, oh my God. I mean, maybe that's what it is, Russ. It's like,
that is what it is.
I'm old enough to like remember these people in real life, and Tammy Faye Baker was like a cartoon character, and you can't make a beautiful woman like Jessica Chastain ugly enough to be Tammy Faye Baker.
Well, right, but they with Charlize Theron in the movie Monster, I think, and I think she won, right?
Yes,
and I think that's worthy, and I think it's worthy because it's a story you don't know. I think when it's something frivolous like Tammy Faye Baker or the Ricardos, it really shouldn't be Oscar worthy. I'm with you on that. I think there should be more substance to a movie than that.
Yeah. All right, let's get started. Hello, Hockey World. Today is Tuesday, February 8th, 2022.
I'm Russ Cohen from Sportsology.
And I'm Oscar critic Michael Agello, and this is the Hockey Buzzcast here on Hockey Buzz.
Have you ever seen the Oscars in person, Mike? I did.
No, I've never been to California.
No, see, wrong. They actually had them on display in New York City one day, and
I'm talking about the Oscars, the ceremony, not the award.
Well, I'm talking about the actual Oscars. I have a picture of all the Oscars. It's pretty cool. Jeez. They actually had them in New York on display, and you could see them.
This is what I have to deal with
in Broadway. Oh, right. I'm sorry. Am I so beneath you?
No, I didn't say that. I'm just saying this is what
you pretty much did. It's okay.
Let's see here. Let's see. Ace is saying something here. I'm just like, not a new movies guy. Prefer old movies like Shawshank. Under Siege is an Oscar. Steven Seagal deserved an Oscar.
There's nothing Steven Seagal ever did that was Oscar worthy.
Jesus Christ.
Except for maybe makeup for his hair and whatever else isn't real about him anymore.
Please, I can't. No, it wasn't Marked for Death. There was one where he pretends he's Italian. Well, actually, in most of the movies he pretends he's Italian. Like his big movie Above the Law, he was Nico Toscani.
Yeah, I mean, look, Jean-Claude Van Damme is Oscar worthy compared to him, and he's not even close.
Jeez. All right, let's start with.
Remember, he was in Super Street Fighter, right?
Was he?
Yeah.
He was also. What was the movie he was in with Dolph Lundgren? Universal Soldier.
Yeah.
Universal Soldier.
They made that into such a big deal, and that was bad.
Well, you know what it was supposed to be? It was supposed
Cisco and Mike Burke. That's funny. That's good.
It was supposed to be Stallone and Schwarzenegger.
And remember Cliffhanger? How bad was that?
Oh God. Anyway, all right. Let's start with the game last night. Now,
hold on. Michael Cohen goes, Van Damme is half Jewish. Look it up. I've never heard it. I'm not looking it up. I don't care.
I don't care. Wham bam. Thank you, Van Damme. Okay, so last night, and I have to, here's another reason why the Olympics in Beijing was a bad idea because you're going to have games that you want to watch playing at 11 o'clock. And if you remember, we talked about this when we were talking about Nagano. The Canada-Czech Republic, back then it was Czech Republic, now it's Czechia. The Canada-Czech Republic game was at like 11 o'clock. So, you watched the Hasek shootout against Canada. It was at 1:30 in the morning.
And I watched the women's too then, and I want to say that was at like 1 in the morning.
Yeah. So last night, Canada and the U.S. played in a round robin game, and I said this in our private chat, but I'll say it. I'll say it to everybody here. If you remember, in 2010, the U.S. beat the Canadians in the round robin. Didn't mean squat when it came who was going to win in the medal round, and we know, barring a ridiculous upset, it's going to be Canada and U.S.
in the warm-up game. They test each other out. Here's the thing that you look at. I can give you the positives for both sides. Now, it's easy to say, hey, Canada had great goaltending. It really was more about block shots and the goaltending. The goaltending was great, but the block shots that they were putting on, Larocque had about 6 of them in the third period. It was crazy because that was at that point, the U.S. was fully snake bitten in that game. Like early on, how many posts did they get, right? I mean, it was ridiculous. So the one thing the U.S. did was early on, they did have good shot suppression, like I said on this show. Then Canada figured it out, got a few more shots. But if you notice, and again, I'm not a big shot guy, but they did pretty much double them in shots for the game. So the U.S.'s strategy of that was working pretty well. Canada, look, the goal by Poulin was unbelievable. The way she turned on the Jets. I'm not sure they should have it was definitely a penalty shot. I'm not sure the U.S. should have tried to stop her because I think Rooney could have stopped her on the penalty shot, on the play rather. On the penalty shot, there was no way Rooney could stop her. I just feel like you should have just let her go in one-on-one and see what would happen. But it didn't, so she scores on the penalty shot, a big play. But the U.S. dominated in the offensive zone for big stretches. They were killing in the crease for the last 6-7 minutes of that game, to the point where I thought Canada might break down and at least give up one more. It didn't happen, so that's fine. Great performance in net, lots of block shots. But I think the U.S. proved something. Everybody was like, well, without Brianna Decker, it's going to be, really tough going for them. And Abby Rock filled in really well. She may not be the offensive player that Brianna Decker is, but she was winning faceoffs, and she was also imposing her will offensively in the offensive zone. There were some really good things going on, and I do feel like there was something they could build on. It's not to say Canada's, all of a sudden going to lose next game, but I do think the next game will be a little different. The only thing I didn't like seeing was that the coach said that he liked the power play. The power play was 1 for 6, the U.S. coach. Don't say you thought there were good things. If there's one thing that gets me, and this is in the NHL too, don't talk about movement and all those other things. Either you connect on the power play or you don't. If you don't, it's not good. If you're 1 for 6, it's not good.
That's all. I mean, I have to say, like, I wanted to watch all of it, and I watched first period and about 10 minutes into the second period, and then I'm an old man. I drifted off, and it wasn't the fact that the game wasn't exciting. It was just too late. It was just.
I had some caffeine in my blood. I did. So I stayed awake, but I will say this. It's possible Henley will be in that next game, but I thought Rooney played fine. I don't think that there was an issue. That first play of the game was bad behind the net, and after that, what could you really blame on her? 1 goal? That's fine. Either way, I don't think goaltending is what's going to cost the U.S. I think what's going to cost them is they are really hard to handle down low and in the crease, but you got to bury those chances. If you can't bury those chances, that's it.
Yeah.
It's going to be over.
All right. There were only 2 games last night. The New Jersey-Ottawa game was, not the game that people were focusing on. But, the game of the night was Carolina versus Toronto, and had a lot of underlying themes. And I'll just this has nothing, and I'm not blaming game ops in Toronto for this, but I do think I'm just going to make a note of this, and I said it on Twitter last night. Please, next year when there's a full building, have a video presentation for Zach Hyman. Have a video presentation for Freddie Anderson. To have it in front of 500 fans is an embarrassment. Not to say that it's an embarrassment, because they can't help the fact that Ontario will only allow
No,
5.
it's more for Freddie's benefit, honestly.
It's more, these are players who played multiple years for your franchise, who were key players on good teams. They deserve the acknowledgement of 18, 19,000 fans in the building to give an ovation, because they were good players and they bled for this team. So I think they should be acknowledged in front of a full group of fans instead of just like the concession staff and some friends and family. It's got to be more than that. That being said, this was a game that Freddie Anderson, former Leaf, versus Peter Mrazek, former Hurricanes goaltender. They made reference to the fact, and we know this, Russ, when you're playing against your former team, there's an amount on the bulletin board. I know Ron Wilson back in the day got in trouble for that. He put an amount on there, and then they took a picture of it, and that was, I guess, that was frowned upon. But we know that.
I don't think you guess it was frowned upon. You know it was frowned upon. Come on.
Well, but it's happening now and nothing happens. You know what I'm saying? It got exposed. Like, everybody knows that it's happening, but somebody took a picture of the bulletin board with, whatever number was there. And that's how Ron Wilson got into more trouble for stupid things like going on Toronto radio and saying, yeah, we're interested in the Sedins. I'm like,
he was a good coach, though. That's the funny thing.
I'm not saying he's not a good coach. I'm saying, he had to realize in Toronto you could say certain things and do certain things. But it was a game with two, the Leafs have an over 700 winning percentage. So do Carolina. This was a test, a good matchup. And the Leafs, I don't know how much you watched of it, Russ, but the thing is,
a fair amount. I did fall asleep in the middle. I did.
We're a pair. I fall asleep during the
because I also knew my body knew I had to stay up for the U.S.-Canada game, but I did wake up for the overtime.
Well, okay, this is the issue that I have.
Ever since I helped Mitch Marner by constantly saying that stat. That's all I want to say.
Yes, of course you're going to take credit for February 1st, 2020. Doesn't matter that there was a pandemic in the middle of it. Okay, but these are two of the better teams in the league. They played with an incredible amount of pace. I was impressed with Carolina. I've watched enough Carolina games this year, but watching them a full 60, you get the idea of why they're as good as they are.
And there were things I didn't love about Mrazek early on in this game.
Right, but later on in the game,
he was solid after that.
He made a save on Aho. It was basically Aho parted the Red Sea, went right between two Leaf defenders and had a clear-cut breakaway, and Mrazek made a pretty nice save. I don't think he was at fault for the Niederreiter deflection goal.
No, deflection is never a fault, but there was another goal I was like,
Well, the goal that it was the Anthony D'Angelo goal. That's the one. And the 8 seconds in, and the defense gets completely caught flat-footed, lets a defenseman walk into the face-off circle, and he puts it off the post. Justin Hall getting undressed, or being out of position, not undressed, being out of position after the puck hit him in the back. But the Leafs, they came back from 1-0. Matthews with 2 goals. They came back from 3-2. Marner tied it on an odd one and then wins it in overtime 4-3. But the big story, and we will see how it unfolds, is the health of Austin Matthews. It wasn't just like Tavares in the playoffs, but it was similar in the fact that Matthews went down. His head was connected with the knee of Pesci inadvertently. He was down on the ice for a while. And then he got up under his own power and went to the Leaf dressing room. He didn't come back for the overtime, but the overtime only lasted less than 3 minutes. And Sheldon Keefe said he was giving him a day off anyway before this. So now we won't know about his status until Wednesday. But if he isn't skating on Wednesday, Russ, then it's not a short-term thing.
Yeah, this could be potentially bad, but luckily, if it's going to happen, it's better to happen early in this, what you would call the second half of the season. So I'm not going to get crazy and worry about it just yet. I know you like to point out and emphasize when these things happen, but They're not all
because I expect the worst case scenario.
I know
That's
you
why.
do, and I get it. So here's something though I wanted to talk about. It happened on Twitter. Jack Hahn's on there, and he's really good. This guy's super smart. Was an AHL coach. He's worked in NHL teams' offices, like their analytics departments.
Worked for the Leafs. He worked for the Leafs.
Okay, and so he put up a stat, and it was an excerpt, and it was a graph, and it was like, and it wasn't a heat map, and it wasn't one of those. It's actually really relatable, showing players. And it said why Toronto is above 50% possession, even on its fourth line on the ice. Instead of throwing pucks away against forechecking pressure, everyone in the lineup has permission to circle back and find help. And that is always a smart play. When you circle back and you kind of read what's going on, you're holding on to the puck, and then you maybe can make a good pass. And it was interesting because the minute I saw that, I had been complaining about a very similar thing with the Flyers' fourth line all year. And I said it's basically a black hole. They can't possess the puck at all. And so I did say, and I didn't answer him directly, but I did say, hey, the Flyers pretty much don't do this. And he wrote the opposite, in fact, and the opposite of the Leafs. And it's true. That fourth line is the opposite of the Leafs. They do throw the puck away. They do throw it in when there's forechecking pressure, and they don't get it back. And honestly, it's not about personnel at that point. It's really about philosophy. And so you do kind of wonder, why doesn't that change? And I talked about it on another show again today, and I can't make any sense out of it. It's like, it's really a coaching philosophy. And I think the Leafs have the right idea with that, because if nothing else, right, we know fourth line energy lines pretty much are not the same the way they used to be. Mm-hmm. However, you still could change the energy of a game with a fourth line by possessing the puck and wearing out the other team on the ice.
I also think you can change the energy and the direction of the game with a fourth line, where a physical player will stand out and do something like last night when Wayne Simmons, Brendan Smith, it wasn't a cheap shot, but it was a check that was questionable against Andre Kasha, and it tweaked him a little bit, and Simmons took on Brendan Smith. And
I don't know how many more fights Simmons can fight like that, though. Honestly,
that was a pretty good fight. I think he won.
It was, but I mean, I don't know how many of those he has left. Honestly,
well, I mean, he hasn't fought much this year, so he's saving himself for those big ones for moments. But it's funny that I did a Leaf Talk post show on Twitter Spaces last night, and one of the callers that called in said he had a problem with Sheldon Keefe in terms of how he matched up lines, especially against a team like Carolina. And I'm like, okay, here's the problem. Carolina up the middle, Aho, Trocheck, Jordan Staal. Good luck trying to match up against.
We talked about that. It's there's no good answer there.
Yeah, I mean, so I mean, I think Keith's approach to it is, okay, I've got Tavares, Matthews, and Kampf as my top three. Kampf is a defensive center. You have Spezza as your fourth line center. I'm just going to throw out my guys and let the other one. And last night, I think that Brindamore wanted Jordan Staal against Matthews, so that was the matchup that he got, because Stahl's a bigger body you can wear on somebody. Right. But the advantage there is for the Leafs because Matthews is much quicker. Right. Now, it ended up with Tavares against Aho. That's an advantage for Carolina because Aho is much quicker than Tavares, but Tavares knows how to handle himself against somebody who's quicker. So, I mean, I don't see, I'm not going to see, I'm going to, shorten my shift.
It wasn't necessarily a winning draw for Carolina there. I agree with you.
Yeah, I don't see the benefit in shortening my shifts with Matthews to get David Kampf out against Aho.
Yeah, I wouldn't do it.
Yeah, so, I mean, but, now it's 6 wins in a row for the Leafs. Interesting thing Kevin McGran wrote, and we will start talking more and more about this as we get closer to the deadline, about what teams do to get that player that might be the difference maker. And with the Leafs, I think everybody knows it's a top 4 defenseman. Well, Kevin McGran wrote something for the Toronto Star about, maybe to get that defenseman, and I would assume this means a defenseman who's got term on his deal and not a rental, they might have to give up a Liljegren or a Sandin. And I mean, if it's a defenseman like a Chikrin, okay. But if you're talking about trading a Liljegren for like a Damon Severson, I
No way.
wouldn't, not a chance. I mean, I think young players like Liljegren and Sandin have taken a step forward with the Leafs this year with improved ice time. I wouldn't give up on them. I would explore other options to get that top four defenseman, even if it's a rental.
No, I'm with you. I again, so hypothetically speaking, give me the best or the most fortunate first round matchup the Leafs could get that you could think of.
Boston.
Okay. So if they play
Boston or the wild card in the Metro, which could be any one of Pittsburgh,
right,
or Washington or the Rangers,
right. So, but let's say Boston, right? Just because you said Boston. Mm-hmm. So what if we give them the Leafs the odds of winning? It's probably 47%, something like that. Boston probably be the favorite in some circles. I know the Leafs have the better record, but they're going to go with history here too a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's 50-50.
Okay, so let's say it's 50-50.
Right.
There's no way you make that trade on a 50-50 chance to move on one round of the playoffs if you happen to beat Boston, who you've never beaten.
Right. Unless, and that's the thing. Unless if you're talking about a rental, yes. If you're talking about somebody with term on his contract, that's a long-term solution, then you might make the deal because it's for more than just.
No, that's fine if there is that person out there. But if there's not, you can't do it because they're really and the right answer is there is no easy first-round matchup for the Leafs.
No. And again, that's why we've talked about the fact that you've got, are you going to fire Dubas? Are you going to fire Keefe and Shanahan if they lose in the first round again? And I don't know.
I personally wouldn't. I've come out and said that because this is a year where unless they just get swept, if they get swept, Mike, sure, then those discussions start. But if it's a good series and they happen to lose, no.
Yeah, if all of a sudden the core four or it's a disappearing act again, then I think, okay, then,
it's still on the players. Like, what could Dubas do about that?
Well, you can shake up that core four.
Yeah, I know. We'll talk about that during the summer. But, I mean, in the end, though, and Nylander's been good in the playoffs, so there's no way I would shake that up.
Well, for 1 year he has. The years previous to that he wasn't.
Okay, well.
I mean, I'm just saying last year he was their most consistent forward.
Yes.
But, this year – he was their most consistent forward until about a month ago, and now in the last month, it's been a disappearing act. So, all right, getting off this game, talking about some other things. Cap Friendly tweeted out something yesterday that we've sort of talked about, but the reality of it is sort of funny. Right now, Vegas is with LTIR has about $5.7 million available. Jack Eichel is now skating with a non-contact jersey, which usually means a week or 2 weeks away from.
Yeah, I still didn't love the video I saw, by the way. I don't know about you.
I didn't see it.
I saw it. I don't think he still doesn't look like the Jack Eichel from before. Not yet.
So, I mean, they're well within their rights to take as much time as possible, but there's no way they're going to take till April 29th. So.
No.
At a certain point, they're going to have to find room. And according to this, they have $4.3 million that they have to open up before Eichel can be activated and come into the lineup. And, I think we talked about it. Riley Smith's name has been out there. I haven't heard Dadnoff's name, but Dadnoff would be the one that I would trade.
Same here.
But I don't know what Kelly McCrimmon does here, Russ.
I don't know either. He's going to have to do it. When's the deadline? What's the exact
March
date?
21st.
Yeah, he's going to have to do it before the deadline. So this is, unless they do hold Eichel back, like this is a head scratcher. Unless he has a pre-made deal already, he might. And if he does, and they're just waiting for Jack Eichel to be healthy, okay, fine. But otherwise, I think it's going to be hard.
There was just a bulletin regarding the capacity in Quebec via Eric Engels. The Bell Center, the province of Quebec will follow the same attendance restrictions as Ontario, meaning they'll open up to 50% capacity beginning on the 21st of February and then full capacity by March 14th. So I don't know if that has anything to do with the comments that Gary Bettman made at the All-Star game. And really, it just mimics what Ontario is doing. I still think they're, when, again, you see full buildings in the U.S. and you see 500 people in Canada, or at least in Ontario, it's one world and it's a different one. So, interesting.
We can talk about now that the Flyers have made it official that Danny Briere's
Go ahead.
Let's see, what did we write in the chat room here? Danny Briere, special assistant to the GM, right?
Yeah, so he's not
really very intentionally vague, right? I think that's similar to what Hextall took when he came in before he was the GM. But I don't think Danny Briere is close to being the GM. I think Danny Briere is being instilled there by management. I think Chuck had no choice but to give Danny Briere a title, and that's fine. I think he should learn about things. I think he'll be in charge of Lehigh because nobody's really in charge of Lehigh. Brent Flair's actual title doesn't really say that he's in charge of it. So I think he'll do that. And maybe he'll do some pro player personnel and some other things. And this is a way to get another guy in there and see what his talents can do. Again, you could have 16 assistant GMs if you feel like it. So good move. We'll see what it is, but I wouldn't get crazy saying he's the next GM. I would not go that far.
There was an update from Chris Johnston yesterday regarding the Coyotes situation. According to the report, the Coyotes have negotiated a deal with Arizona State that would see them pay nearly $20 million to build an NHL caliber dressing room and workout facilities at Arizona State.
And who's paying that?
I would assume it's the Coyotes. It would have to be.
The same people that had trouble getting current on their taxes?
Yeah. That's what
Are they going to ask for this money up front?
Yeah, you would think. Well, no, maybe they'll the construction company will do all the work, and then then the company will say, well, we're not going to pay you, and then negotiate it down to something less than that. We've heard that done before, right, Russ?
Yeah. So this is exactly the way this new turn has taken, where I think they are playing there next year, whether there's a Tempe or not.
Yes. Right, and that's what we said yesterday. I think what's going on here is they can't make the move haphazardly. They can't make the move without planning it. So they're going to buy time, even if they can't find a deal in Tempe. They're okay. We're going to play in Arizona State for a year, and then since they're probably paying, they would probably be paying less. Are paying more, to go to Gila River for another year, even if they would let them to do it. But I honestly, I don't see them being there after next year. I don't think the deal
either.
Yeah. I don't think the deal is going to happen in Tempe. I don't think it's going to happen at all.
But they can you see, the problem is Tempe's in no rush. So they could all act like it might happen and string this out for another year.
Just an update.
You know what I mean? Deal-wise, they could just string it along and say, we're waiting for that deal.
Yeah. Just an update here from David Alter, who covers the Leafs for the Nation Network. Austin Matthews came into the arena, their practice facility today when he didn't have to, saying he felt pretty good, and that they'll see how he feels tomorrow, but that's a positive sign. So,
did he have a football helmet on or anything to protect his head, or no?
No.
Okay. I'm just saying, don't you want to take all precautions?
No, not me. We'll take some questions in the chat here. Just a couple things. I saw that, and this is the state of the teams that are in the Olympics. Valtteri Filppula is the captain.
I know I'm excited about young players in the Olympics, but the problem is it's really just the U.S. that has a lot of the young players. The Slovaks do too because they have a couple draft eligibles, but for the most part, it's recycled guys like this. And so I'm going to watch certain games, but really only the games with the U.S. or the Slovaks.
Yeah, Valtteri Filppula is the captain, and Leo Komarov is one of the alternates.
I know it's like it's so ridiculous. And I did a show today, Mike, and I had to basically preface by saying I don't know where like the ROC is going to put this player, and I don't know even what the U.S. will do with their young centers. Are they all going to play center? Like these weird things happen in the Olympics when all of a sudden you have some of these veterans that come along and they feel like they have to give them their due, even though the young player is clearly on their level or better. So I don't know. I mean, I'll watch some of it, but I can't get overly excited.
Apparently, the number one line for Canada is Eric Stahl with Mason McTavish and Josh Hosang.
I mean, that's a pretty good line.
Yeah.
That's a good line.
And I would not be surprised that right after the Olympics, the Leafs sign Hosang to an NHL deal.
Yeah, I pretty much said that today.
Because
I won't air until tomorrow, but I had the same feeling.
The only concern I would have, and I don't know, I believe he would have to clear waivers, is that if they sign him to a contract, somebody might claim him, based on how he plays in the Olympics. But if he plays well, then somebody might give him a chance. I mean, I think the Leafs, I think they might give him a chance to play, a look. They've given other.
Well, I mean, here's the thing: if let's say they pick up another defender and they could sign him cheap to an NHL deal, that does give you an opportunity to possibly put in a guy who could score some points for you at key times, whether it's down the stretch or in the playoffs. Why wouldn't you do that?
Okay, let's answer some questions here.
If you feel like it.
Goalie FP, Frank, when will the first big trade happen and who will it be? I mean, that's simply guesswork. I mean, who knows? But I would think, okay, the deadline is March 21st. I would think maybe one major deal would happen before the end of February.
I'm going to say it'll be the Marc-Andre Fleury one to get him out of Chicago, because it's only going to get worse there.
Yeah, and Chicago has the ability to eat money on that deal.
And they have a goalie that they can put in there and like it in.
And as somebody did point out when it came to a guy like Giroux, the cap hit ramifications would be less late, right before the deadline. Yes. So, now Philadelphia is going to have to eat 50% of the $8.25 million, but he might get traded to a third team.
Well, they could put Couturier on LTIR at that point.
Well, I'm talking about the other team. I'm talking about the team acquiring them.
Yeah, they still have to get half. Yeah,
right.
So they get a third team to wash it.
Right, but the actual cap hit, percentage wise, based on the number of games remaining, would be less. So a team might be able to fit him in, whereas right now, with more games left, they wouldn't be able to fit him in. So,
right.
That is a consideration. But I do think, I don't think it'll be the big money guys. I don't think it could. I think maybe the first move could be Chychrun because, because Arizona doesn't have to wait until the deadline. He's a long-term solution.
They're going to stink now and the rest of the year.
Right. And for, in perpetuity. Thomas Boyle, does Green or Chara make any sense for the Leafs as rentals? No. Chara. Okay, the Leafs need a top four. Neither one of them are top four. Would you love to have Chara as a bottom six guy? Sure, but he's a lefty, and they've got so many lefties. He can't play the right side, and he's not fast. I mean, I'm sure he can.
Well, he might not want to deal with the border thing.
Right, and that's the overall. Like again, with the Friedman reported that Josh Manson has the Leafs on the no trade list. There are a lot of players that don't want to go to Canada right now because of the restrictions.
Yeah.
And, I think that might loosen up as the restrictions loosen up. But, Zach Bogosian signed back in Tampa because he didn't want to deal with the border with his family. It is a factor with these players.
It is a factor.
Let's see here. John, Owen Power still hasn't signed his ELC. Have heard in Toronto he's unhappy being drafted to the Sabres. Any chance we have a Lindros situation? No.
No, I've never heard that.
He's going to sign with the Sabres after the season.
You never know. Like, here's the thing. I did bring this up today, Mike, because if for some reason a team comes calling, and again, none of these teams are in playoff contention, but let's just say the Sabres after the Olympics really like what they see and they say, do you really have to go back to Michigan or do you want to start now burning your ELC? You never know. One of the or two of the Michigan guys could go for that.
Sure.
I mean, Brian Leach did it, right? He went right from the Olympics to the pros. I mean, it can happen.
Yeah, but I think
it's going to happen.
Power did go back to Michigan because he wanted a full year of the college experience and he wanted to win.
I know, but that could change, right? We don't know.
Sure. If he wins a gold medal, then he said,
right.
"Oh, that's But I do that. Okay, remember, they have his rights for 3 more years.
Yeah.
So that's not happening.
But still, what if they said before, "Hey, we're gonna bring you here, but you're only gonna get B bonuses," and then he wins the gold medal, and they're like, "Hey, we're gonna give you everything now." Like, you never know. I mean, I don't think that's going to happen, but it could happen.
Randy, no.
Wow, that was fast. Way to give Randy like 12 seconds on the show.
Well, yeah, but I think we've covered. Again, we're covering the territory of they need a top 4, and Braun is not a top 4.
He can play the part. I disagree with you.
Well, okay, but I mean, the money works. What they would give up for
right-handed shot works.
Right-handed shot works, but value works because they wouldn't have to give up a first-round pick.
Right.
But the quality of the player doesn't work. I think he's a 5'6". I don't think he's a 4. And especially he's not a 4 with Jake Muzzin, because Jake Muzzin, I mean, he's not the slowest guy in the world, but he's not the quickest either. I don't think you can put Muzzin and Braun together on a second pairing and survive. I don't think it works. I think if you're playing with Muzzin, you need somebody who's
a top choice. It could be a choice.
Say that again. You broke up there.
It's obviously not a top choice, but it could be a choice.
Yeah, I mean, if all else fails, sure, but I think
that's all I'm saying. Yes.
Yeah, but I think Braun's going to get moved before then because I think the Leafs are going to explore all the options of a top 4 before they go down to let's get a veteran depth guy, and I put Braun in the veteran depth guy category.
Yeah,
I'd rather have Luke Shen than Justin Braun.
I'll answer one, Mike, that you didn't put up there, but they're talking about Scott Mayfield. I think Mayfield will re-sign with the Islanders. I don't think he's going anywhere.
Yeah, I mean, everybody looks at the $1.45 million contract in another year and salivates. But I think Lou is all in on this team bouncing back next year.
Yes.
And they're not going to give up a guy who's making that little, who's a big, tough righty defenseman. They believe that they're gonna be good next year. I don't know, but I mean, I think there's enough quality there for them to maybe bounce back. Let's see here.
I will answer the one question about the Beanpot. I did watch yesterday. I think Northeastern's going to beat BU. It's funny. Devin Levi's not there, Mike, and his backup is really good. Like, Devin Levi may end up having to split some time when he comes back, unless he's got a gold medal hanging over his neck.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm sure the experience in Beijing is going to be, positive for Devin Levi, but that's. I mean,
it's going to be hard to take this guy out if he wins the Beanpot, right?
It's a Wally Pipp situation.
It is.
Just to answer Vepsis's question here, because the Nick Ritchie question. Yeah. Now this is the thing that is the problem. As he says, the contract was backloaded. So not front loaded. It was backloaded.
Like his talent.
So this year his salary was $1.7 million. Next year it's $3.3 with a $2.5 million cap hit. If it was reversed, you'd find a bunch of teams saying, okay, we can get a $2.5 million cap hit and pay less. In this instance, the Leafs are probably going to have to pay a draft pick to get a team. Now, there are some teams, again, I keep going to Arizona. Arizona's got 15 unrestricted free agents. They need players under contract for next year. Now, they can do that in free agency, but how many free agents can you sign?
That's you'll sign 1 million of them, Mike. They don't. I mean, it's like
no, but I'm saying better. It's almost better to get an asset and get a player who's under contract for a year rather than just signing a player.
It's better for you because you'd like to get rid of him.
No, I'm saying it's better for.
No, I get what you're saying, but he's not a guy who could play. They're going to.
Hey, friggin' Antoine Roussel can't play. Jay Beagle can't play. They're collecting players that can't play.
Yeah, but they cost less.
No, they're more expensive.
Antoine Roussel is?
He's making $3 million.
All right.
Jay Beagle's making $3 million.
Well, Richie's 3.3 next year. Who the hell wants to pay that?
It's a $2.5 million cap hit.
Okay. All right.
Funky.
By the way, Terry 3Gs is just like a disciple of you. You should just block him in the chat room. Everything you say, he's just saying now about Braun.
I block him.
Terry, just listen to what we said.
If he's a disciple,
he is a disciple of mine.
Balls at the altar of Mike Agello.
He does.
Okay, Funky. Marc-Andre Fleury to Minnesota. I would be in if I'm Bill Guerin, and I think Bill Guerin.
I think there's a chance. Yeah, of course.
Again, I don't think their goaltending is bad. No. I just think it could be better. I think they could be a legitimate Stanley Cup contender based on the construction of that team if they had a better goalie. And the fact that Guerin was in Pittsburgh and knows Fleury, I think that lends itself to the possibility of that happening. Let's see here. Just okay. Where do you think Fleury will go other than Minnesota? Okay, I don't think he'll waive his no. Well, I don't think he has a no trade. I think he waived it to go to Chicago. So I don't know if Chicago would have to honor it.
I'm going to say Colorado is the other.
He's got a modified no trade.
I'm going to say Colorado.
He won't go to Edmonton.
No,
I don't. As opposed to what was out there about him going to Washington, I don't think he's going to go to Washington.
I think there's a chance. I think Washington and Colorado.
I think he waived to go to Washington.
I think he would do it.
Mm-hmm. I think he's going to stay in the West because you know what? That's where he can get revenge on his old team. Can you imagine Marc-Andre Fleury playing for Colorado against Vegas?
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. That's why I think Colorado could be the number one choice, honestly.
There was some talk out there. I can't remember who reported it, but maybe Randy can tell us about the Flames and the Flames dealing Matthew Tkachuk. Now, we've heard that before. I would find it hard to believe they're going to deal him during the year when they're in the playoff race, unless they
still might, depending on. I'm going to say this though, because he has arb rights, the Rangers can make a better deal than the Blues, and I don't know if Matthew Tkachuk would say no to the Rangers because he could sign a short-term deal with him and see how it works out. I think there would be interest on both sides for that, and I wouldn't rule it out.
Yeah, Tkachuk, I believe, out of his ELC, signed a 2-year deal, so he's got 2 years until unrestricted free agency.
Right, and I think the Rangers would sign on for that and be able to give better assets.
He's 1 year away from
1 year. They still would sign on for that, I think.
Right. I mean, you
get a 1.5 year rental. They would do it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, now.
And after that, if he wants to go to St. Louis, fine. But again, if he feels like the Rangers are really close, he might just stay too.
Well, here's the thing, and this is probably why these rumors are popping up. And I believe the rules are the same. Your qualifying offer as an arbitration eligible RFA is 10% more than the base salary of the last year of the contract. His base salary this year, he took a backloaded deal, so he took next to nothing in the year one.
Right.
Believe me, next to nothing. I'll take next to nothing if next to nothing is $5 million. But He took $5 million year one, $7 million year two, $9 million year three. So the qualifying offer would be $9.9 million. That's why they might deal him.
No, that's definitely why they're going to deal him, and I think the Rangers could swallow that.
And that's why they might deal him before the deadline because automatically there's a knife to their throat if they go into the offseason, making the qualifying offer, but then essentially him saying, I'm not going to play there.
Whoever his agent is brilliant, because he knew there's no way Calgary was going to be able to or want to pay that in the end. He knew that.
Yeah, I'm wondering who his agent is. Maybe it's Darren Ferris. Let's see here. Our friends at Puckpedia who provide us excellent information all the time. Here we go. Matthew Tkachuk's Craig Oster is his agent.
Well, that was a good contract because that pretty much, you knew this was probably going to be the case with the Flames.
Yeah. See here. Adam Fox hates Calgary. Oh, come on.
I've never heard that story. Please. I don't know about it. Move on.
Goalie FP, who is the most desired player for the Leafs right now? I'd say it's Manson. He checks all the boxes of what they're looking for. Right?
Yeah, if they actually trade him,
or if he actually is willing to be traded.
Right.
Yeah, that's in question. But I think in terms of what they're looking for, big, right-handed, mean, top four, he checks all the boxes. Yeah. I think Ristolainen is second, after Manson, and then there are probably a number of other like rental possibilities, but I think those are the two that I think would make them. I don't think Klingberg is a fit at all with the Leafs. He's too offensive.
I don't think for the Leafs it's a good fit.
Yeah, not good enough to fit. I think Klingberg for the Rangers would be good, but
yeah, I do too. I still think there's interest in that. I think, like you said, the Leafs have too many guys like that. The Rangers could definitely shelter Klingberg and play him the way he needs to play.
I don't believe this. I mean, I'd have to hear Pierre LeBrun say this to actually believe it. Ace. Petrie makes absolutely no sense unless they give up next to nothing for. They give up Nick Ritchie and the future rights for Martin Marincin. That's the only way that deal makes any sense. They wouldn't give up draft picks. No. No. He's a 34-year-old defenseman with 3 years left.
Yeah, the contract's awful.
Let's see here. Roussel makes $3 million. Yes, Funky. Did I stutter? Mike will block.
I was shocked at that. I'll admit it.
Mike will block all trades to the Oilers. Well, I don't have that ability, Randy, but if I did,
you're so deluded, man. Just move on.
Jeez, I think. Oh, let's see here. Anthony in the chat. Will the Caps go after a goalie with Copley, Samsonov?
Yeah, I think they are. Yes.
Have we heard anything about the extent of Vanacek's injury?
No.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't heard if it's anything massive.
Listen, I could see them getting Holtby back.
Yeah, Jeremy Rutherford.
What do you think about that?
Holtby?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that would be smart, but Dallas is in the race right now.
Today they are.
Today, yes. It was Jeremy Rutherford from The Athletic who reported the Tkachuk rumor, and it wasn't just the Blues. There was like 3 or 4 other teams.
Yeah, the Rangers were one of the teams he attached, and I could see that.
Now, okay, let's play make a deal here.
Okay.
So if you're the Flames, what are you looking for from the Rangers, and what do you think the Rangers would be willing to trade?
Kakko or Kravtsov, Jones or Lundqvist,
and a number 1
and a first.
Yeah. I don't think they're getting more than that.
No team can match that. Yeah. It's really going to be hard.
Yeah, I mean, especially I don't think they're going to give up Kakko and the defenseman in a number 1. I think it'd be Kakko.
Well, they might give up Kakko if it's Zach Jones, and maybe then they go a second round pick instead, or a conditional first.
Right, because Kakko has shown some ability this year.
Showing an all around game now. His scoring just hasn't come out yet.
Yeah, but to put Matthew Tkachuk on the same side as Kreider.
You could do that, or you could put him with Panarin.
Oh my God. That would
certainly make them viable.
That would elevate them to a higher level. Yeah.
It would.
There was one more thing here that I saw before we end the show, but I'm blanking out. Giroux to Toronto makes no sense.
No, it's not happening. It's like Giroux to
Please.
the Rangers. People are like, well, what about Giroux to the Rangers? They're not doing that. Now, again, if Giroux gets traded to, and I'll just say a team like Pittsburgh, and Pittsburgh trades him to the Rangers, there's nothing you can do about that.
Yeah.
But he won't go directly there. I would tell you that.
Yeah, just please stop. All right. We'll end the show there. Thanks.
The show is over.
The show is over. Yes, it is. And it's 1:58. So we got it under an hour. So we'll be back tomorrow with another edition of the Hockey Buzzcast. It does appear that we will have later in the week an NHL general manager on the show. I will keep it maintain some mystery here and not say who it is, but we will probably have an NHL
If
GM.
it's up to Mike, it would be Randy Carlisle. It's so obvious.
Well, he's not a GM.
Former GM.
No, he's a coach.
But that's right. No, who am I thinking of then? Not Carlisle. Sorry. There is somebody you like.
Ryan Burke?
No, not Berkey. I can't remember now. Yeah, I don't know why my mind went to Carlisle for GM. That's true. And Joe Thornton's a Hall of Famer. He is. We all know that.
He's a Hall of Famer, yes. All right. Thanks, everyone, for watching. Not departed. He'll soon be departed, Russ Cohen. I'm Michael Agello. Thanks for watching. And remember, without the buzz, it's just hockey.